Hi everyone, hope you're having a good week. This week we again have a double sedra. It's Achoremos and Kedoshim. Now, deep breath. In Kedoshim, we have the well-known mitzvah that a man may not lie with another man. For most of us, this mitzvah would be similar to other mitzvahs in this week's sedra, like don't eat blood, don't communicate with ghosts. That's fine, that's easy. It's not something that I wanted to do anyway, so that's an easy mitzvah to keep. But for others, this one sentence in the Torah is really a life sentence. And it's something that they'll agonize over for months, years, some of them for their whole life. It's a fact that some people are gay. It's a fact that some Jewish people are gay. And it's a fact that some religious Jewish people are gay. And I'd like to talk about that because it's important to talk about things rather than pretend they don't exist. Of course, it's a sensitive topic, and I'm going to try my very hardest not to upset or offend anyone because that's exactly what I don't want to do. So I'm not going to talk about the actual mitzvah and what is or isn't included. I think we all get the general gist. But I do want to talk about our response to such a mitzvah. And to do that, I'd like to put a human voice to it. Because it's not just an abstract concept, it's something that is having a major effect on people's lives, particularly in our generation. So to do this, I want to tell you about a friend of mine. When I was about 19, I directed an outreach program. It was for a group of teenage girls. It was a very small group, just 11 of them. They were about 16 years old at the time, and they came from slightly varying backgrounds, mostly religious. And you know, they were all in Jewish schools and had a strong Jewish identity and quite a lot of Jewish knowledge. But the point of the trip was to give them really deeper knowledge and understanding of Judaism and to connect them even more strongly. So it was a trip in Israel. We were staying in the old city, and it was the best trip that any of us ever did. And we're still in touch, all of us. We had a reunion recently, which I'll tell you about soon. But at the time, it was really the journey of a lifetime for these girls. We were staying in the old city. We had access to all the top speakers, and you know, we had day after day of incredible lectures and amazing trips. And we were just literally in the right place. It was the right time for them, and it made a major impact on all of those girls. And at the end of the trip, we asked them to write a letter to thank the donors who had funded the trip. And I want to tell you about this one girl. So I'm going to call her Annie. She wrote this letter that she doesn't remember writing, but it stayed with me until this day, and I've recently reminded her of it. She wrote the following letter. She said, "When I first came on this trip 2 weeks ago, I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe that he existed, or even if I did believe in him, I was definitely very angry with him. And now I've had the most amazing 2 weeks. I've really connected in a different way, and I feel like I'm on the start of a journey. And I know sometimes things are going to be hard, and I know life has its ups and downs, but I also know, or I feel now, that whatever life throws at me, Hashem's going to be by my side, holding my hand, and he's going to be with me for the journey." And I remember reading this letter thinking, like, how on earth, like, what on earth happened here? That she's gone in 2 weeks from, you know, not believing to this strong connection that whatever happens to her, she knows Hashem's on her side. So after that, we began learning together on the trip. We had a chavrissa, and after that, when we got home, we carried on learning together once a week. But I wasn't the only source of her Jewish knowledge. She was in touch with some of the other leaders on the trip, and she attended lots of classes, and she was much more Jewishly involved. And when she finished school, she went to SEM. And we stayed in touch, but not very closely in touch. You know, the odd texts here and there over the years. Anyway, as I said, we had this reunion about a year ago now, And it was 15 years on from when we all went on this trip. So obviously things had changed. People had grown up. It was really amazing to see everyone again. And because it was a group, we didn't get such a opportunity to speak one-on-one, and we decided to meet up again the following week to have a proper catch-up. Now, I did know the changes that she'd made in her life and the turns that her life had taken over the years, because I had kept in touch, but I kind of wanted to hear it from her. So she started telling me everything. We went out for dinner, and she said for a long time, you know, in her late teens and in her 20s, she tried to suppress who she was. And, you know, by this point, she was fully observant. She'd been to SEM. She was keeping everything, loved Judaism, was really connected to it. And it was something that was really important to her. And she, you know, she started dating. She dated lots of guys, but she knew deep down that she could never be happy, could never marry one. And I can't even express to you the pain that I could hear as she explained to me how she felt that she had to keep on chipping away at her Judaism, which she believed in passionately and cared about deeply, as she couldn't find a way to reconcile her two identities. She knew that she was gay and that she could never love a man in that way, could never have a happy marriage and a happy home. And eventually, as she kept on chipping, she felt that there was nothing left and that she had to deny her Jewish identity to herself in order to fully embrace who she really was. And although she still believed in everything, she pushed it all deep down, and she found it too painful to think about what she'd lost, what she'd had to give up. And thank God for her, she found a group of people who were in a similar position, who were very supportive, and they formed their own kind of support group. And she began to feel more okay about who she was. And once she'd officially come out and she had this support network, a lot of younger teens began to get in touch with her who were going through similar, having similar feelings, going through similar changes. And over the course of 2 years, she told me around a dozen boys and girls from homes, from schools, would talk to her and her friends about everything they were going through, because they had nobody else to talk to. They were really struggling, really in so much pain and sinking into depression to the point of having suicidal thoughts. She told me that as a teen, she had suicidal thoughts. And we're sitting at this meal together out for dinner. And at this point, she turned to me and she said, you know, I tried. I really tried. I know what the Torah says, and I know this is a big deal. And it's been so painful for me to give up this huge part of myself that means so much to me. But I felt like I had no other choice. I felt that there's no place for me in Orthodox Judaism. And then she said this. She turned around to me and she said, why is it that if somebody turns up to your shul and says, you know, I'm trying to be frum, I'm trying, but I don't quite keep Shabbos yet, or I don't quite keep kosher yet, everyone was bending over backwards to make them feel welcome, to invite them for a Shabbos meal, to be inclusive. And yet I can be keeping everything else, 612 other mitzvahs, and there's this one mitzvah that I can't keep, but that's not okay. And I was lost for words. I didn't know what to say. And to make her question even stronger, the Torah uses a very harsh word to describe a man lying with another man. It uses the word toeva, which we translate as an abomination. I don't know if that's an amazing translation. But you know what else is called a toeva? Eating meat and milk together. Lo sochal kol toeva. Same word used. You wouldn't hesitate to invite someone over who eats milk and meat together. And yet, there are Jewish teens who are depressed to the point of being suicidal because they know what kind of reception they'd get if they came out. They're too scared of what people will think, what their family will say. Will they be cut off? That's not okay. Before we even get to the laws of forbidden relationships in this week's parasha, we have some other laws. Firstly, lo sisna es achicha bilvavecha, hocheach tochiach es amisecha, velo sisa olav chet, which means you shouldn't hate other people in your heart. You should tell off, rebuke your kinsman, but incur no guilt because of him. Rashi explains that if you embarrass someone with your rebuke, then that in itself is a sin. So if rebuking someone, calling them out on their mistakes, reminding them of what they're doing wrong, causes them shame, don't do it, because that in itself is an avera. And the very next posuk has probably our most famous catchphrase, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, Ani Hashem. Love your fellow as yourself. And this is the bit we often miss out. Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. It's literally a mitzvah in the same parasha to love everyone, and it's followed up by I am Hashem. You can show everyone love unconditionally because it's not up to you to judge them. I am Hashem, not you. It's your job to love everyone, and my job to be Hashem is saying to us. You don't have to worry about what other people are doing. One shouldn't have to decide between being gay and keeping the rest of the Torah, the other 612 mitzvahs. Your sexuality doesn't define your feelings about Torah, mitzvahs, or your relationship to Hashem. And likewise, your feelings about Judaism does not and shouldn't define how you view others and their way of connecting. People are complicated, and wherever you are on the vast spectrum of Jewish practice, everyone has that which they do and that which they don't, or don't yet, or that which they struggle with. And each mitzvah is individual and independent of every other mitzvah. Each one is an opportunity to connect to the infinite in a meaningful way, to live a meaningful life. And nobody should ever feel that the fact that they're not doing one mitzvah means they can't do any of the others. Going a different way to others, especially close friends and family, can be scary and painful. So let's at least try to be as understanding and kind as possible. No child should have to live in fear of rejection from their family, and no parent should have to feel ashamed of their children for fear of what others may think of them. Each of us should focus less on others' observance and work more on our own observance of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, because as Rabbi Akiva famously said, that is the fundamental principle of the Torah, to love everyone unconditionally. I hope you have a good week and a good Shabbos.